So welcome back to the KO'd Convo here, and I'm joined by one of my good buddies from Ohio Wesleyan. He actually just moved to Seattle. He is an independent filmmaker. Just came out with his first first documentary here. His name's Spencer Pauley. Spencer, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome, awesome. So Seattle, why Seattle?
Man, why not? Honestly, I was so tired of Ohio. So after I graduated back in 2019, took a year to try to find the right job, career job and everything like that. Wasn't working out. And then COVID hit. I'm like, well, this isn't helping anyways. And so just kind of like, where should I go? And a lot of thinking and just decided I'm going to do my own thing for a year or two or however long this pandemic lasts. And I know a lot's going on in Seattle, especially with all the activism and everything like that. And it being on the west side, just something totally new for me. And I was like, let's do it. And so packed up my bags and I left. And I have no regrets.
Yeah, yeah. And you drove there, right? That's how you moved?
Drove all the way, man.
Yeah, yeah, I moved to Columbus and I did the drive, but just the opposite way. So I know how that feels a little bit. But yeah, starting your own thing. I'll tell you what, you certainly got started with a bang here. Just released your first documentary, and if the listeners want to go check it out, it's called Pedaling Across America. Excuse me, the story of Erik Andrews, and it's pretty much about a guy who decided to bike across America in the middle of a pandemic. Spencer, how did this story come about for you, and how are you able to connect with him? And why was this story just such of interest to be your first documentary?
Sure. So uh, we're both Eric and I are both from Oberlin, so a small community like that, you kind of know everyone in a way. I'm not the most active on social media, but my dad is, and found out on Facebook what Eric was doing in the midst of his trek across the country, and so I just heard about that. I was like, that's amazing. He's like 60 some years old and he's just riding his bike all over. And it just seemed, amongst all this other negativity going on, it was a good story. He's raising a lot of money and doing something that's, it's a really big accomplishment. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely something I want to kind of just document. I think it's worthy of that. And so I reached out to him once he got back home from his journey, and we sat down and talked and set up an interview. Got access to all of his videos and stuff, and he gave me some connections to people that I interviewed that you see in the video. And it's just an inspiring story, and I'm glad it's finally out and people could see it and see what he did.
Yeah, yeah, and so it certainly was an inspiring story, and I've had the pleasure of watching the documentary already, and it's a must watch. It's on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's on YouTube, so definitely go look it up. In terms of like the filmmaking process, though, did you obviously you weren't following him on the journey, so I assume you had to recreate some of the scenes of him biking.
So that's the difficulty about doing something like that. You're telling a story that's not yours or that already happened. So I talked to him in our interview, and I was like, I need access to like your photos and any videos you have. And so he shared with me a folder of all the pictures he took and a few videos. His daughter took a few as well, and then the people over at ASP let me use any of their videos as well, which was very kind of them. And you just kind of splice it all together. The thing is I'm still kind of broke, so the technology I'm using is not the most high quality, but I make it work, and that's what I'm kind of proud of myself for. Because the lav mic probably could have been better, and believe it or not, the shots I took some B-roll of him recording or riding his bike. I took it with my iPhone, And the interview I record with my iPhone, and takes good enough quality, so it works. So with whatever you have, you make it work, and that's what I did. And hopefully, later I invest in actually good technology and all that stuff. But for the time being, I'm happy with what I'm working with.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, just working with what you can, I guess. Just got to make it work somehow. What would you say during this whole process? How long did it take you to make the full documentary, do you think, from start to finish?
So it I started working on this back in September, and then I moved to Seattle amidst all that, so that kind of got in the way a little bit. But so September to November, it felt like a long time, especially because with all the information I had, all the footage, it came up to like a 2 hour long movie, and I was like, well, that can't work. So that took a long time to splice that down and see what was necessary for the story, because there was a bunch of other little neat things about his trip, but what's most relevant, what keeps people engaged, what do people want to care about, keep them to the screen, right? um so yeah, uh that's about it.
Cool, cool. Going back to kind of an original question here, what was your biggest like takeaway from a process or kind of like a creative process like this?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, I just think that every video you make, you learn from. So in the future, you kind of learn how to conduct an interview better, maybe check out locations beforehand, make sure that what they're wearing is makes sense and is relevant to the story. And on me, as an interviewer, like the questions I ask have to like make sense for a video, and that's things I learned. And it wasn't such a big issue this time, but in the future, it's something I'll keep in mind. Also, I don't know, just like the people I interview, I'd like to see more. When I have like a new story, I'd like to see more people or let's say cast members. That's a good word for it.
Cast members,
I don't
good.
want to say characters because they're real people. that's what
Yeah,
that's what's cool about documentaries, though. I think is that you make the story as you go. So I had this original plan, and then I found out more about ASP, the service project he was pedaling for, and what they were working for, and how much his journey meant for them. And so that changed my whole entire story. So that's just the crazy thing about making documentaries, is working on the fly and making a story work, and also doing it in a timely order, because this happened over the summer and I don't want to waste any time and release this in winter of 2021 when they're like, well, that was a while back. So that's also something to deal with. And also just working on your own is kind of difficult. I did have a friend from high school named Alex Calco, who helped make the music for me, because I don't know anything about music. So I gave him a sample of the video, and he set up the music, and it worked out great. And I was thankful for that. So once he gave me that, I spliced it all together, uploaded it, and it's released. And that's the whole story right there, man.
there you go, there you go. So, as an independent filmmaker though, or as someone who's really working for documentaries, at least for the time being, what would you say are your like end goals if you have any right now?
Sure. I'm not expecting my videos to, get thousands of views at the start. I love that, of course, and make documentaries and, get ad revenue or make money on YouTube for that. But, the chances that are slim. I knew that going into it. What I'm doing is just kind of building a portfolio. And let's say a year or two from now, when the pandemic, let's say, hopefully is gone, and video productions are opening up and looking for hire, I have a lot of my portfolio, and I'm like, look what I did here on my own, show something. And that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm enjoying it.
Is there a is there a possibility that, say, you enjoy this so much that you just keep going down this route even when those said positions may open up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really like doing it on my own because I'm in charge of what I make. Whatever story I think is interesting, no one could tell me, well, let's do this something else instead. No, it's my own opinions, and of course, I like to hear what other people say and suggestions. But overall, it's whatever I do, and that's what I like about it. So even if, let's say, a year or two from now, I get employed, I mean, I can still allocate time towards side projects here and, you know, do stuff like that. So yeah, this isn't something that's only temporary. I feel like this is something I could keep doing for years to come.
Awesome, awesome. Now let's go into Eric a little bit, because I mean we touched on him at the beginning, but I kind of want to go deeper into his story and who he is and stuff. He's from the same town you are,
Hmm.
Oberlin, here in Ohio. He mentions in the documentary, and I don't want to spoil too much, but he mentions the hurdles he had to go through. Um, he mentions the hurdles he had to go through, like the stretches without stopping and stuff like that. Um, what was it kind of what was difficult, sort of, about uh, bringing together those hurdles in terms of what, like going back to what you said, what's necessary and what's not necessary? Like, was that something, like those hurdles, was that something that you had to get in there?
Like bringing up those in conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to include parts. There's like certain stories he told them, like that's really cool. For instance, he met someone who also was pedaling across America, and coincidentally, his wife, who was waiting for him at the finish line, met the brother of the guy that Eric met, who was pedaling across America. You know, like cool stories like that. But when it came down to, I was like, I can't include it. It just kind of distracts from it. But with his hurdles, I think I included most of what he went through, even if it was just mentioning. Like in the beginning, he said was supposed to have ankle surgery, and sure enough, he couldn't do that because all voluntary uh, surgeries were put on hold because of the pandemic. So he kind of biked across the country with ankles that needed surgery. I don't know exactly what was wrong with his ankles, but it needed surgery. Also, just like the long stretches, and I mean, he's in his 60s, biking tens and tens of miles a day over a whole summer. Like, I know his legs were swollen and aching, but you just talk about that and you mention it, or you make it a part of a big specific part. But the way the interview went, it just flowed along with his journey, all of his troubles, especially like the rain or anything like that. You just do what you do, and that's what he kind of said. You go with the flow.
I think something that was crazier for me while I was watching was those goddamn construction boots he was wearing while he was pedaling. I don't know how he did that part, but
I should have asked him about his blisters for sure. I'm sure he got some blisters from that one.
those,
But yeah, he so you brought that up. One thing he did is he wore the work boots he would have worn to the Appalachia Service Project, which he rode for. He did that just to give him like a visual reminder of what he's doing this all for. And of course, like other bikers on the way were like, "Why are you crazy?" and everything like that. But to him, it meant a lot. And I think that's just a good part of the story. And when I interviewed him, I looked at those boots and they are banged up
oh,
after all those miles bent.
I can only imagine. Jeez
Hmm.
Louise, just the soul was like the soul's not even there anymore. It's probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I do want to touch on something about filmmaking, like modern filmmaking, and I want to kind of tie it into sort of how everything has become based on the internet now and all this other stuff. Where do you think that filmmaking and like independent filmmakers like yourself, right? How can how do you feel like they're or you are adapting to like this new? oh, we got to put it out on the media instead of putting it on like a show or something like that, or a streaming site or whatever?
Um, I think just because the pandemic limits people to work together in person. Um, I mean, for me, I'm not working with anyone, so I don't really have to worry about social distancing except when I'm interviewing people. Like with Eric, we kept our distance. I wore my mask. We wore a mask together even. But I think filmmaking, you're going to see a lot more independent filmmakers like myself because a lot of people got laid off. You know, there's no one's making videos right now, and no one's hiring. So people in a desperate act, I guess, like me, are just making their own content because why not? And you know, you got to do something in the meantime. For me, I can't sit around too long, and the pandemic made me do that long enough. So that's why I made such a crazy move to move to Seattle and make documentaries on my own. And yeah, I think with this pandemic, you're going to see a lot of people kind of just make their own content and see what happens, see if it sticks or not, and keep doing it just like I'm doing myself. Because there's no one's really working together right now. It's hard to. I think you see some big networks right now are trying to adapt and make content, but you can kind of tell the quality is not the same because people aren't really working together in person. It's kind of talking through emails or Zoom meetings, and it's just not the same. So those storyboard meetings just aren't the same, and that's why a lot of people are kind of more interested in the independent projects like my own or anything like that. So
Yeah, it's really interesting because it seems like content creation is sort of becoming the new profession, and everyone's making millions and thousands off YouTube and stuff
well,
like.
think about this too. Sorry to interrupt you, but like TikTok, once I know it was a thing, but once the pandemic happened, it really like blew up. People just were bored and either watching it or making their own because it's simple and easy. I mean, I even made TikToks, I mean, just to show my journey and just kind of show people what I'm doing in Seattle. It's just a huge move. And I don't know, it's kind of fun, you know, always trying to keep the brain turning and everything like that, you know.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think TikTok and YouTube, of course, but TikTok now are just sources for people to just make content they're proud of. You see a lot of cooking videos, you know, travel vlogs or anything like that. And that's all people doing it on their own. And that's what you're seeing the trends for, you know, not so much the movies and TV shows and everything like that, but more the independent stuff. And that's what I kind of like about it.
Yeah, I will tell you though, I can't stand TikTok. I think it's one of the worst apps ever created, to be completely honest.
And I will say I don't stay on it. I'm not the one that watches all the time, but I do make TikTok. So what am I? I can't say anything.
I was going to say, and I was actually talking to Alexei Pavlov, one of our colleagues. I was talking to him about this. Like that damn app ruined so many good songs. It's it's one of the worst things ever.
Yeah, definitely pick and choose what you watch, but it's kind of hard to. I tried scrolling. I was like, yeah, I'll just make my own things, I guess.
I'll create it, but I won't watch it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Spencer Pauley, it was great. It's great to have you on as always. Awesome to talk to you again.
Hey, it's good to hear from you, man. It's been a while.
The documentary was amazing. So definitely go check that out if you're listening. And thank you for joining the KO Convo.
Thanks, Gan.